Hello again, and welcome to Badasses of History. This is episode 5, Leo Major. Leo is a one-man assault team, and he pretty much takes over an entire freaking city by himself because he's a badass. And this episode was a lot of fun for me because, I don't know if there's a whole lot of other guys out there that did what he did. So it's pretty unique. I hope you guys enjoy. On January 23rd, 1929, a badass was born. His name was Leo Major, and he would go on to become known all throughout the globe as a one-eyed, one-man army. He is still one of the few men to launch a solo assault mission so effective that it's comparable to an entire squad of special forces, and he did this in 1945. Leo Major grew up in Massachusetts with his Canadian father and mother. Leo's relationship with his father was always rocky, and he would fight for his father's attention and recognition, but always seemed to fall short of his father's expectations. As a result of this, he moved out at the age of 14. Leo's daddy issues would go on to be the single greatest factor in his accomplishments. Fueled by angst and driven by the desire to make Papa proud, Leo Major enlisted in the United States Army at 19 years of age. His first glimpse of war came from perhaps the worst military carnage in all of U.S. history, the beaches of Normandy. This, no doubt, helped Major discover his giant balls of tungsten carbide. He managed to capture an armored vehicle single-handedly, and then came upon a group of SS soldiers. He gunned down 4 of them, but one managed to light off a phosphorus grenade. The searing ball of white fire burned through his eyeball and left him blinded in his left headlamp. Upon medical examination, they decided to send him home. But Leo wasn't having it, and he demanded to stay in the fight, saying, "I only need one eye to sight down my rifle." They agreed. In autumn of 1944, Private Leo Major and his men were headed to Antwerp, Belgium, when they were fired upon by 2 German soldiers. He killed one and decided to capture the other. Rather than holding the German as a prisoner, Leo opted to force the young man to escort Private Major to his commanding officer. He met the commander and over 100 enemy soldiers. Leo immediately shot down 3 of them, and apparently that's all it took for the rest of them to surrender. As he escorted them back to his camp, a group of SS soldiers were so disgusted by the surrender that they began firing on their own troops, killing several. Leo would never forget this, and would hold a special kind of hatred for the SS for the remainder of his life. By the time the soldiers entered the camp, he had single-handedly captured 93 Germans. British General Montgomery was so impressed by this that he offered Leo the Distinguished Conduct Medal. This one-eyed warrior refused the honor. In his words, the general was too incompetent to be handing out medals, therefore, receiving one from him would be worthless. In February of 1945, Private Major found himself loading up corpses onto a medical truck. The truck drove away and hit a landmine. He was thrown from the vehicle and landed on his back. When he awoke, medical personnel informed him that the war was over for him. They pumped him full of morphine and told him he had broken his back in 3 places, snapped 4 ribs, and broke both his ankles. This meant nothing to the private. 1 week later, Leo saw a passing jeep, hobbled aboard, and fled. Within a month, he was back in the fight. The regiment approached the city of Zwolle, and the commanding officer asked for 2 volunteer scouts. The crippled, one-eyed task force stepped up, as well as his friend Corporal Willie. The 2 snuck into the city at midnight, and Willie was quickly shot down after accidentally giving away their position. This sent Leo into rage mode. Picking up his friend's rifle, he quickly dispatched 2 German soldiers, and the others escaped in a vehicle. Opting to carry out the mission alone rather than to retreat, Private Major captured an enemy soldier and, holding him at gunpoint, led him to a bar. There, he encountered a German officer who spoke fluent French. He explained to the officer that they were surrounded, and if they didn't give themselves up, the entire city would be bombed and there would be no survivors. He then let them go to warn the others, even giving the officer's gun back to him as a sign of good faith. Wasting no time, the Canadian Terminator ran through the city, firing his machine gun and lobbing grenades. He made so much racket that the Germans believed they were already under attack. During this one-man raid, Leo would run into groups of men who would surrender to the terrifying pirate, and he would march them over to the Canadian Army across the border, only return to the city for more. He did this over 10 times. Throughout the night, Leo killed countless enemy soldiers, set fire to the Gestapo headquarters, and barged into the SS HQ to engage in a firefight with 8 officers. He killed 4, and the others ran away. By 4:30 a.m., the Germans had retreated, and the city had been liberated. The Canadian Army was able to take over without any resistance. He was again awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal, and this time he accepted. As if capturing 2 cities single-handedly wasn't enough, years later our hero found himself in the middle of the Korean War. He joined a sniper platoon and was sent to overtake Hill 355, also known as Little Gibraltar. Attempts had been made to overtake the hill, but the Chinese force of over 40,000 men thwarted every attempt. Within a few days, Leo and his men were surrounded, and an order was given to send an elite team of snipers to sneak up the hill and attack the enemy. The fearless private and 18 others were chosen. They opened fire on the Chinese, and the enemy quickly launched a counter-assault of over 14,000 men. Leo and his brave 18 held them off until they were ordered to retreat. They did, but obviously the lone wolf refused and instead ordered mortar strikes that were so close they were exploding a few feet in front of him. He held the hill throughout the night, and eventually the Allied forces were able to retake the hill. Leo lived to be an old man and died at the age of 87. He became an honorary citizen of Zwol and is still celebrated today in the city. His bravery and refusal to quit is an inspiration to soldiers across the world and is still regarded today as one of the baddest men who ever lived. Alright guys, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and be sure to tell your friends. Thanks.